So within our sales process, what we do with business owners when they bring us in to consult to, do for them. I mean, we work with businesses in a couple different capacities, consulting, full hands-on done for you, course curriculum, whatever's kind of needed. But most people are interested when building a sales team internally. And let's say you're already doing 100K plus a month and you have a steady funnel, lead flow, and can fill your reps calendars, whatever that is. I don't care if it's paid, organic, email, it doesn't really matter how. Those are some of the prerequisites we're looking for. So let me show you some of the things that we do that might be a little different from some of the other programs in the industry. We all know there's closers.io with Colgord, and there's all kinds of done for you sales teams. I've worked with people that have been through a lot of the other programs, and it's ironic how they end up finding this and seeing some of the differences that really work for them and their sales team in getting them up to KPI, whether that's show up rates, closing percentage, right? Whether that's, not having the right sales process and the right frameworks. I don't want to say scripts because sales should never be scripted. And if you're looking for just a script, click off now. I'm not the guy for you. Go find somebody who will give you a script that a monkey could read off and close deals. Cool with me. That's not how I do it. And that's not real sales in my opinion, but teach their own. So let me show you first off what we call our micro commitment process. Now, anybody watching this probably knows this is kind of what I call the usual or old sales method, right? An ad or content, whatever gets them to raise their hand. Again, I don't care if it's paid, organic stuff, Facebook group, email, doesn't matter. We have to create that engagement in the first part. Then we go to a conversation, whether that's a 15-minute triage call, which I highly recommend. Some people do this in Messenger. Some people do this through an application form, yada, 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 to a sales call, right? That's the usual process. The problem we found with this when things aren't going right, objections, no shows, lack of closing percentage, we start to think back to ourselves, some of these things. Was it the call or the messaging? Did I push too hard? Not hard enough? Were they even a good fit? Were they the right quality prospect or caliber, client I'm looking for? Way too many variables. So we mapped out what we call our micro commitment process, which really quickly in the old process, this would have been steps 1, 3, and 6 were the old 3. So numbers 2, 4, and 5 are all things that we've injected in this process. And I'll explain those really quick. So when you create engagement with a contact or a new lead and somebody just hits your ecosystem, top of funnel, they're at that point, generally speaking, a low sophistication or awareness level prospect. I like to look at this micro commitment process as also the process that elevates their sophistication and awareness level throughout this process. So from step 1 to step 6 is going to be night and day. And that's why it makes step 6, the close, actually much easier because we've leveraged all these steps in between. So first we can create engagement. Now, one of the biggest important things here is assigning the new frame, which is really showing them that, hey man, this is the problem you're facing. Cool. And this is why you think it's a problem. But then we're going to show them the underlying or the real problem, right? Normally when a prospect sees our stuff, engages with us, comes to us, whatever, they are looking at the symptom or surface level problem. Now we're going to show them what the real problem is by assigning the new frame. So an example, hey Ray, I'm running Facebook ads and they're just not profitable. So I think I really need to, get a new Facebook ads course or hire an agency or a Facebook ads expert. And then I might go in and say, hey man, what are you charging for your services? Oh, you mentioned charging 500. I looked into what you do and I've, crafted over 250 high ticket offers. Did it ever occur to you, Mr. Prospect, that you're significantly undercharging? Your marketplace for what you're delivering, the average value of that's about $2,500 packages, and you're selling them for 500. If I could show you how to clearly, concise and efficiently 3, 4, 5x your package and your back end deal, all of a sudden that changes all your metrics. So maybe it's not that your ads aren't performing right. Maybe it's you're significantly undercharging. Think if for each deal that came in, you got 4 or 5x what you're getting now. Would those ad campaigns be profitable right now? Okay, I totally agree with you. So let's address that problem before we go out and start to tweak all the ad stuff. If you're significantly undercharging, it's not going to really matter how good your ads perform. It's probably not going to be very profitable on the back end. So boom, I just assigned a new frame. Then we send them to step 3, a call to action, which in my case, for damn near all of my business owners, is a triage call. There's a few cases where they can do it with an automated asset, a VSL, a application form, or a setter in Messenger. I highly recommend that, a triage. Of course, I build that out custom and weigh the pros and cons when I work with a client individually. Now, steps 4 and 5 come between the triage and the close call. And this is even more applicable when you have a team and you are not doing this all yourself. So you have a specialist that hosts the triage call and you have a different skill set and an advisor or a closer on the back end as the actual sales rep, right? So two things that we've found is number one, giving homework in between. So once you've assessed at the end of that triage call, and let's just say we were going off the same example I just gave in step two there. Hey, Mr. Prospect, so based off everything we talked about, right? What I recommend is we book out a full 45 minutes and do a deep dive strategy session with my senior advisor, Mark. What's going to happen on that call is today's call, obviously, we only had 15 minutes, my man, so I didn't have time to get into it all, but I really needed to understand, number one, if we were a good fit to help you. And number two, more importantly, if you have the type of business that we know we can get to the next level and help you hit your goals. And now that we're aware of that, I highly recommend jumping on that call with Mark. Oh, cool. You're down to do that. Let's select the time, yada, 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 right? So what I'm going to do now after this call, you're booked in Friday at 3 p.m. with Mark. I'm going to send you over to, I'm going to do a couple things here, Joe, right? Number one, I'm going to send you this quick little tutorial and video showing you how we package together high ticket offers and how we craft them and how we help people 3, 4, 5x what they're charging. So you're going to understand our philosophy before you even get on that call. That way you can ask any questions, anything that didn't make sense, and you can really hit the ground running and get the most productivity out of that call with Mark Friday afternoon and really talk about your strategy and your business, but understanding our philosophy. So I think that'd be really beneficial and help you be better prepared. Secondly, I'm going to do a messenger introduction. So guys, now I'm on step 5, alignment. A messenger introduction, just rehashing everything we talked about here, Joe. So I'm going to loop us into a 3-way thread in Facebook Messenger. What I'm going to do is give Mark a little introduction. Hey, Mark, this is Joe. He and I spoke on Wednesday. Fill him in on everything we talked about, so you don't have to rehash any of that information. I'll let him know where you're at, what you're trying to accomplish, what your biggest struggles are, how I think we can help him, and just make sure you guys are connected. That way, if one of you guys is running 5 minutes late or something happens, you guys already have an open chain of communication. How's that sound? Boom. So that's my process, right? And what this really helps us do is it helps us reverse engineer things. So micro commitments allow you to collect feedback and faster optimize your sales process, right? So what we like to say is having micro commitments will allow you to collect objections, identify hidden pains faster than a simple one call close. And, here's why. 4 of these things happen before the call, right? You can't rely on one single call to do the heavy lifting. About 75 to 80% is in the process and pre-framing them and making sure they understand the problem you solve. So what I like to show people is now when I start to have these problems, right here, constant rejections, or I think about it. Well, now I need to go back and maybe look at my frame and what I'm saying in this message or however I'm conveying this to them. Does your frame, about the real problem resonate or even make sense to find a solution? Like if that's not happening, when you get to the end, if this didn't make sense or sound like a solution, they're going to have a lot of I think about it, right? Or, constant no-shows. That means we either didn't do a good enough job in the obligation or homework and alignment phases there, predominantly the homework, because what that does is in between calls, A, they're hearing your voice, staying engaged with your content. B, you're delivering more value or educating, so they're at that higher sophistication level and awareness when they get on that call with the advisor. And when that's not happening right, you're going to get lower show-up rates. They're going to feel more obligated if they put time in, if they've watched a resource, if they see the value and they know you can solve their problem. Like it would make no sense for them not to jump on that call, right? If you're just hearing all pass, that could go back to the alignment phase or we did not assign a frame well. Probably number 5, but it can also do with number 2 a little. Number 2 is more like I need to think about it rather than just a hard all pass. Like, they're a little bit different, but sometimes there's some similarities there. We're just getting no response, right? Right in the beginning when we're creating engagement, we're not doing a good enough job with our hook. If we're just losing them early in the process, we're getting people to say, click on our ad, but not actually book, or people to like it, but not actually book. Or if your engagement is cold messaging and you're just getting ghosted right off the bat, that means we got to go back and tweak the initial hook messaging, or as we call it, a knowledge gap to actually create that engagement, right? Frame was never assigned engagement. So I'm just showing you guys all different things. Now I'm going to give a quick run through. I have a call here in 6 minutes, so I got to bounce here soon. But in terms of the frameworks that we put into the 2 calls, the triage and obviously the close call, right? What we like to say is the triage framework, my definition of a successful triage call is to do 2 main things. It's got 2 main objectives, right? Number 1, make sure the person's a good fit and we know we can help them and there's somebody we want to work with, right? We all have people that we don't want to enroll in our programs, and this is the time to weed them out. So we're only putting quality people on your advisor or closer's calendar, right? The second aspect is a financial pre-qualifier before that call. But think about it as we're always really trying to find out this on the call, right? Kind of the what they do, who's their market, where are they at now, where do they want to go, why do they want to get there, how are they planning to get there, right? So we have a really good framework here, and then again, I go customize this to each offer I work with, but it starts off with, um, hey Joe, so tell me what intrigued you to really hop on the call today, right? Awesome. So quite frankly, they're going to tell me, I don't have time to go through all this, unfortunately, but they're going to tell me something along the lines of, hey, I saw your ad and I loved your pay-per-close job system or whatever, right? You're going to understand the hook and what brought them in. That's great feedback to have. So you can double down if you keep hearing this over and over again. But I like to remove the sales friction right in the beginning, right? Hey, Joe, so awesome. Based off what you told me, that's great. But quite frankly, I'm not even sure I can help you at this stage. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about your business, dive in, and then I can better assess and give you the best recommendations and suggestions toward the end of the call. Does that sound fair? Okay, cool, man. So why don't you give me a little background on your offer, right? Your price point, what's your ideal niche, how long you guys been in business, who you serve, that kind of stuff. Can you just give me some context, right? And then we're going to dive in, we're going to gather intel and go through all this. And again, I don't have time to go through all this right now, but I'd be happy to share this with anybody interested, or slow down the screen. I know I'm going fast, but the other thing we're going to do is a soft yes in terms of a financial pre-qualifier. Now, this is after we know they're a good fit, and this is toward the end of the call. You'll see up here, you'll see a highlight bold, transition to the advisor. So the first part is like, doing your triaging aspect, and then you make your suggestions and recommendations, and this is where you transition and all the steps that go into that. But more importantly, once you get down to this point and you've confirmed, now, Joe, if everything makes sense on your end when you have that call with Mark Friday at 3, and you can see a clear path toward how to become more profitable, raise your prices, and get more lucrative and profitable Facebook ads and a better overall ROI. And of course, the finances line up and make sense. Would there be anything on that call that would stop you from investing further in your business? Right. And the reason I ask, would there be anything that would stop you? Because that makes them stop and think. And my business partner, my spouse, you might get an objection right now that you can fill in. And okay, you have a business partner. Well, that call Friday at 3, are you both going to be able to attend, or are you the sole decision maker? Okay, well, let's make sure we can both attend. We'll keep that tentatively. Let me know if the business partner can attend. Go check his calendar. If not, let's move something around where we can all be on the call. That way, everybody's on the same page. Cool. So whatever. But rather than just asking, hey, if the finances line up, would you be willing to invest on that call? Sometimes people just nod their head and say yes. They don't really think about it. But if you ask if there's anything that would stop them, they're going to pause and think about it, right? And then we have our master doc framework that we call our framework cheat sheet that we've used in. I mean, Jesse and I stopped counting over a year ago at 26 different niches and industries. This is very much industry agnostic and can be pretty much plugged in anywhere. Introduction, obviously, situation. I'll go through the overall thing here. Find the problem, the impact of the problem, find the solution, impact of the solution, tie down, consequence of inaction, price, pitch, present, demo, temp check, and assume sale. This one is built out for a specific offer. So there's all like, hey, this is the steps when you get ready to collect payments. Send this, do this, do this. Then we have our AAA objection overcoming framework that most people aren't familiar with. And a lot of sales trainers and coaches teach kind of programmed responses, right? If they say spouse, say this. If they say I've been burned before, say this. This is a framework that is objection agnostic, right? I'm using that phrase a lot now, but this works for all of them. And I have a whole training going through the whole process. But this is a quick little overview of some of the processes that we implement, and maybe some things that you might see that stand out from other programs, sales trainers, or maybe what you're doing now, building out your sales process by yourself, and you can get some things here that are helpful. So hopefully that's of value to you guys.